Well, hello, folks, and welcome to an automotive radio show for the Gear Change Show here on a Saturday night. I was getting in the mood playing this um, BMW M3. So yeah, I've been playing Forza for like the last half hour. So I got a BMW M3 from 2000 and 2005. So that's what I've been doing to get in the mood for this Gear Change show. So I hope you guys enjoy this one. I'm going to mute this music, this stupid music. So yeah, hello everybody, and welcome to the Gear Change show. And I told you guys I was going to do an odd, setup slash, um, ooh, 3 body kits. So kind of looks a little extreme. So that's an M3. That's lifted. That's a little too extreme. So it's got a nice splitter on it. That's more DTM over there. It's got too many side skirts. So yeah, the oddities of the automotive world. So I wish you could. I want to see how this one looks out in the wild. So I want to see how each one of the body kits looks out in the wild, because you can't really tell what it all looks like. That looks ugly as sin. See the back. It looks like a time attack car to me. That looks pretty ugly. Not doing that one. You guys are getting a little extra with the Gear Change show today, so um, this body kit looks a little bit better. think I'm gonna go with the other one. Not the big fat one with a lot of wings on it. Yeah, this one will do. So I thought I'd talk to you guys about odd things that they used to put in cars and stuff like that. So thought I'd tell you guys that tonight because they put some weird stuff in cars. So cars. I'm gonna go from accessories to how you started the cars. So back in the early, so I'll tell you some of the oddities from the earlier cars. So when cars first came out, some cars had no roof. It was the first two cars ever produced. So the first three cars ever produced were the Oldsmobile Daria, which actually had a roof. That would come in late in the 1900s. I think that was like 1890, between 1895 and 1899. 1895 and 1899. 1886 and 1889, 1886, 1889, and 1890. Mercedes-Benz came out with the Patent wagon, with the Patent tricycle, and then the Patent wagon. One was three wheels. You heard me right. You heard me. It was a trike. The first ever car, the first ever automobile ever produced was a trike. And do you know what it had for a steering wheel? Well, it actually didn't have a steering wheel. It had a tiller. Yes, like on a crank tiller, like on a I know I'm not doing Roger Penske's. I'm not doing Roger Penske's going to win the Indy 500. I'm not going to do that again. So it had a tiller that would do it, and you could only corner at a certain speed, or because the one wheel would cause it to fall over, keel over, and cause it to keel over. That is way better looking. So I will take that instead. So the first one was a tricycle, and the wheels were big. So that's a fun fact. The first car ever made by the Germans. Being the Germans usually are kind of weird. Actually, I'm gonna shut Forza off because I'm not. I'm actually gonna shut Forza off, and I'll come back to this tomorrow. So the Germans, being funny, decided to make a trike, and then I think 3 years later, in I think it was either 1889 or 1890. They came up 18. I think it was either 1886. It was 1886 and 1890. They came up with a 4-1, and that was the Patent wagon. So the Patent car, and then the Patent wagon, which was a four wheel car, and it only had a top speed of 10 miles an hour. Both of them had a top speed of 10 miles an hour. Not that you would want to go 10 miles an hour in these cars, because they had basically bike wheels, thin bike wheels with next to no air in them. So the first ever car. The first ever car was a bike. So was a trike / bike. So that's kind of a weird one. And then the French, when they came up with cars, the cars. Now the other thing that was actually interesting was the cars back then didn't come with keys. No, you didn't have keys. So just as you were steering with a crank, you actually had to start it with a crank. The wrist braking, the French came up with the bright idea to I'm just gonna prop you guys up so I'll clean my glasses. The French had the bright idea to not come up with the key and decided to, we need to pay the rest of our citizens. So you had to be a total, so you had to be a strong man, and to work this crank. And eventually, I think people got the idea, and then I think it was in the early 20s and 30s. I think it was in the early 20s when the Austin 7 came out that they actually had a gear shift, a key, and it wasn't complicated to drive, because the Model T was pretty complicated. I know Chrysler also had swivel seats, but we're going to get to that in a moment. So a lot of you were probably, now one of the interesting things about cars in the 50s, cars in the 30s and 40s was, actually in the early 1900s and the 20s and 30s, is cars actually, if there was a two-door car, they used to have, it was a four-door sedan, and the sedan wasn't the swoopy bodied thing. If you guys want to look at touring sedans back in the 1920s and 30s, touring sedans were not curvaceous pieces of art. No, these were boxes of steel and iron, and they had the aerodynamic properties of a brick, because people really didn't understand speed back then. That, in fact, racing wasn't even not that you wanted to race on the little bus tire, on the little trike tires, and the little bike tires that they had on these cars with leaf spring suspension and stuff like that. Independent rear had not been invented yet, so people had leaf spring suspension with these little leather covers on and stuff, and you usually kept them greased greased for pretty much every. Look at this. Sorry. This is 1975, by the way. See this right here? This was kind of an oddity. That was, hey, it's the prototype iPod. It's a prototype iPod. Somebody figured out how to put it in a little. TV-like thing. You know, it's hilarious. So, with still imagery. So yeah, you want to talk about something? I'll talk about infotainment systems and stuff like that in the next couple of minutes. But they had, so back in the 20s and 30s, you know, they had boxy sedans. One of the most interesting things, though, I will say this, is even in the 50s and 60s, Chryslers would have swivel seats. Would have swivel seats for their older owners, because the average age of a Chrysler guy was probably in his 50s and 60s, a company exec. And you press the button, and the seats, you press the button. Press a button on the door or something like that. Seat swung out for you as the door opened, and you could sit down, and it would lift the steering wheel, and it would put you back in. It would insert you into the car. The other thing is I think Cadillac also had a traffic light indicator as well. So a traffic light indicator in there, it could tell you what traffic light is, so you don't have to look up. This is before technology. They used stuff like that. The the 60s wasn't too innovative. I think wasn't too innovative. Wasn't too innovative. Guy's doing Morse code with this little contraption, to call up the Cybermen on the in the Doctor Who episode I'm watching. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. So they have different automotive, different automotive things. Let me just check my phone here. Oh yes, I forgot. So, I think Chryslers and Buicks also had tissue dispensers in their one, and I think Cadillac also had a record player. Yes, you are hearing correctly, a record player in the car. So if you had a 45, you could take this thing out and you could oh yes, Cadillac had an online had a autotronic eye. So what would happen is if it was an automatic headlight dimmer. Everybody says that we can dim our headlights or whatever on our phone screens. Cadillac came up with this stuff first. Cadillac was kind of ahead of the curve. So what would happen is if it's our snowbank or if it's our headlights coming on, you used to put this little thing here and used to dim the lights for you. That's what I was getting at. So it used to be right next to the steering wheel. I'll show you a photo of it if you guys can see that in that red post. That little thing on the left of the steering wheel, right over here, where I just pointed that little pencil sharpener little thing. Yeah, they used to read headlights and they used to dim the headlights. So that's an interesting thing. Oh yeah, Buick had the headlight thing, so it would tell you when it would change. So what would happen is it would be lined up with the stoplight. It would sense it, and you could look straight ahead. Then your peripheral vision, you could do that. So Buick and Cadillac did that. Um, so that was the 50s and the 60s. 80s, well, 80s are the well 80s kind of had a trip computer style thing. So if you were ever in a Chevy Beretta or a Chevy Monte Carlo or a Buick Regal, there was a little trip computer thing. It wasn't really a trip computer per se. It was kind of you could kind of read MPG and you could kind of use switch dials and stuff like that. That was one thing that they would do. cigarette lighters. Well, that's been around forever, so I won't beat around the bush on that. Phone, can you unlock, please? Please. Traffic view lighter. So, got a traffic view light. So that's what a traffic view lighter used to do. So it used to point up to the light. It would be a image somewhere, and it would tell you when the light would turn red or green, red, yellow, green. So you could. So if you were looking down, not that you were looking down in a car, because looking at the car back down. One more thing to. So this was actually decent technology to actually, so you could keep your eyes on the road, but also look, because it's placed right over the speedometer, and you're looking at, and the speedometer's right here, and the wheels here, and you can look right through. You don't really have, and if you see the light change on the image, not that it was probably high tech, this was kind of a cool thing, although they got rid of it because people were probably staring at that light a little too long. So, it never caught on though, because it kind of died out. You know, they only had it for a certain amount of years. So, so yeah, there's so many weird things, and then and also one other thing that was very innovative, and it was kind of before its time: pop-up headlights, manual pop-up headlights. Chevy, the Opel GT from 1971. It looked like it. Look it up. It looks like a little mini Corvette. There's a handle inside that you can press with, and there was rods, connectors that would flip the lights. Some of them work, some of them don't. Another thing in the 50s was wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, wait for it, Bueller. In the 1950s, for those of you who have a Mercedes or a BMW or something with a hardtop convertible, you guys think you guys have the best thing in the world? You guys think you guys are styling? No, there was a bunch of people in Sunlander convertibles that that had an automatic roof, hardtop. Unfortunately, it wasn't. Unfortunately, they only sold it for 2-3 years, I mean 3-4 years before it was banned. Speaking of roofs, well, it wasn't just banned; it was just unsafe, and it was just too heavy, and it was making the car kind of sluggish. And plus, it kind of added to the cost of the car, and it was one more thing to fail because they really didn't understand it. But yeah, so everybody in a Mercedes Benz or a Porsche or whatever with a polo top roof or a RF thing, or a Chevy SSR, you guys were beaten by a Ford back in 1957, 1958, 1959. So the Star, the Sunliner convertible. There was also in a bunch of Ford models, there was a roof that was clear, that had clear glass. It had a 365 view, so you didn't have to have a convertible top. That was great in the winter so you could see out of your car if there was a bunch of snow drifts and stuff like that. But during the summer though, kind of bad because it would magnify the rays and the seats would be super hot. Like it used to melt leather because the glass used to magnify the rays. So you can only imagine if a car was like 60 degrees with the AC and stuff like this on, you go out there, you step in, it's super hot, you're breathing in fire. So and being in a hot car in extreme heat is a bad thing. You breathe in a lot more CO2 when it's hot. How do I know this? Because when I went down to Virginia and I was in the car for a bit and I didn't have AC, I ended up having to get out, and it was actually cooler outside than it was inside, than the car. So yeah, that didn't catch on. Well, let me bring it up so I can show you guys. Um, I think Ford had. It was either Ford or Mercury that had it. I can't remember. Yeah, the Ford Crown Victoria. Yeah, you never thought. So that's what a Ford Crown Victoria glass roof looked like. Yeah, you guys can see how much of a problem. So half of the roof was all glass. So if you were in the driver's seat, the driver's seats were cooking at the end of the day. So that was 1957. So for those of you with panoramic subtop roofs, it's so cool. Ford beat you. Ford beat your invention so many years earlier, but it was kind of dished because of the heat problem, I think. Also, another automotive oddity for racing was this. This is my. Actually, let me take it out of the glass case because you guys can't see that damn thing. So this is an Alpine A442. Is it? Yeah, it's an Alpine. It's an Alpine Renault A442. Not to be not to be confused with the 442 Oldsmobile. Renault had the A442. They did that so that they didn't have to trademark GM. So you see this little glass bubble. This was good for aerodynamics. This was able to this little letterbox of a opening. So this was so these cars were capable of 224. I think the year before, this little roof ended up adding 12 miles an hour to 236. It actually ended up outgunning the Porsches. Only problem, again with the Sunliner, it ended up making the cockpit of this car unbearable. Didier Pironi and Jean-Pierre Joussard ended up saying that it was unbearable in that car. It was fast. But it trapped the engine heat in, and that little mail slot of a window did nothing, and that little exhaust fan at the top did nothing to extract the heat. Nothing to extract the heat up into the little air scoop up there, because that was supposed to funnel the air into the that churned off the radiators and stuff like that. I was able to churn it into the engine, so that was kind of a thing. That was a design back into the that was the design. That little airbox was a kind of a design back then, so not just restricted to Formula One, but they did that back then as well. So you don't want a glass roof over your head because it screws up your trajectory, and it screws up your temperature gauging. So yeah. I thought I'd give you guys a half an hour episode of just kind of weird automotive topics. You guys can look at other ones as well. If you guys want to comment ones you guys have looked up online, just give me a shout in the comment section. I always read them. Thank you for everybody who subscribed. I appreciate the comments and the views and the contributions. Thank you. I will see you guys later, and I want to close out 2025 second month. It's pretty strong, so we're doing okay. But so we have 157 views for this month, and we have 376 total for the year. So we're doing very good. So we are about 10% of, but so we're about maybe 0.5% of what we want to do this year, because I want to try to get I want to try to get more than I want to try to get 1,000 views at least this year. But I think ultimately we want to try past 3,000, like 3,000 something, or I want to try to aim for minimum. I want to aim for 2,000 something. Maximum, I want to aim past 3,600 or whatever, 64 or whatever I had last year. So, hope you guys enjoy this one. You guys have been begging me for content. Sorry I didn't produce one yesterday. I had to attend to something. I had a family get together yesterday, so I had to deal with that. So, but yeah, I will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow is the Am Better Health 400 tomorrow at Atlanta Motor Speedway. We'll, after the race is done at like 6-7 o'clock, I'll tell you guys what I thought about that, the action and stuff like that. I'm working Monday, so I'll tell you guys my escapades on Monday afternoon. So yeah, I will catch you guys later. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll keep banging these out. Peace out and good day, folks. Have a good one.